It was said that before ancient times, God created humans and also witches. God then distributed his power to the witches and ordered them to take over their duties to direct or protect humans who did not have power. The witches obeyed the message from God and vowed to be friends and live with humans in peace. However, as time progressed, humans called for witches to be eliminated. They cruelly hanged the witches and displayed them en masse. The scene then shifted to the Saul Sabia area in the Empire of Rhedia. The main character of this anime, Adonis, was with his teacher, Chloe Morgan, an ice witch. It was also known that they were looking for a way to leave the Rhedia Empire. It seemed that Chloe was still confused about where she was even though she had looked at the map. But a moment later, Chloe scolded Adonis not to use strange equipment for fear of being tracked. Adonis then said that the device he was holding was called a smartphone. Apart from that, because the cell phones were made by Adonis himself, they could not be tracked. Moreover, Adonis had used magic that even human military technology could not track. With an annoying face, Adonis said that his teacher was too old-fashioned because she still used maps in this day and age. But a moment later, Adonis asked why he and his teacher had to run away. Because Chloe was a witch, so it was only natural that they escaped from human hunting. Right now, they had to find a country that could accept witches. Chloe would look for a place to send Adonis to school. But Adonis said that he didn't need to go to school because he just wanted to be Chloe's student. Hearing this, Chloe teased Adonis that he liked older women. Seeing Chloe, who looked cheerful, made Adonis surprised because she acted as if there was no problem. In contrast to Adonis, who really hated the Rhedia Empire, he intended to finish them off with magic. But a moment later, a squad of hunters was seen ambushing Adonis and Chloe. Adonis was about to confront them, but Chloe stopped him because Adonis' magic was not yet mature. Chloe took out her weapon and finished off the hunters in the blink of an eye. The scene then shifted to the Rhedia Empire. Emperor 23rd named Gothi was seen receiving reports from his subordinates. His subordinates said that witch Chloe was a top-level witch who mastered freezing magic. If they only relied on a small team, then it won't be enough. However, he was suddenly kicked by a military soldier because he was rude to the emperor. The emperor asked them to immediately arrest him because he would not let Chloe run away. Chloe had frozen all the hunters, but Adonis was annoyed that his teacher won't let him fight because he obviously could use magic. He asked what the point of learning magic was if he couldn't fight. But again, Chloe reasoned that Adonis' magic power was still not up to standard. Adonis said that as Chloe's student, how could he not meet the standards? Adonis revealed that Chloe didn't allow him to fight because he was human. Chloe couldn't possibly allow him to eliminate his kind. This made Adonis unable to stand it because he couldn't protect Chloe. Adonis cried. Chloe immediately hugged him. However, it turned out that the equipment used by the hunters was still active, which allowed the Rhedia Empire's technology to find Chloe and Adonis' location. The two of them were trapped in the beam of light. Even Chloe's long-distance physical teleportation couldn't be used. Adonis then calmed Chloe down. Suddenly, Chloe and Adonis disappeared. It turned out that the light beam came from a satellite belonging to the Rhedia Empire. It looked like the satellite could move objects over long distances. It was known that they would move Chloe and Adonis to the central square of the capital. Meanwhile, the emperor was seen giving a speech to all his people. Previously, humans were protected by magic to avoid natural disasters and disease. Humans also sought help from witches and worshipped them. However, humans began to fear witches because their magic exceeded human knowledge. The emperor said that humans were not weak and could only bow to witches. He wanted humans to live in peace and dignity. The emperor firmly said that humans were not that vulnerable. Humans were able to create spaceships, steal cities, automatic trains, and smartphones, which symbolize wisdom. The emperor announced that this was a super-industrial revolution being developed by his country. The emperor again emphasized that humans were not weak. Even without supernatural things such as magic, they could change nature with their own power and master it. The emperor said that now was the time to exterminate witches and show the whole world that humans were the masters of the earth. After the speech, the emperor was seen being praised by his wife, Empress Andromeda. But not long after that, Chloe and Adonis suddenly emerged from a bright beam of light and landed right in the middle of the emperor and his people. The emperor gave a welcome to Chloe because the emperor had wanted to meet her for a long time. Knowing that in front of him was King Rhedia, Adonis, full of emotion, ran to the emperor and said that he would buy time so Chloe could escape. But Adonis' actions were of course stopped by the guards. Seeing Adonis, the emperor knew that he was a human raised by the witch. Full of anger, Chloe then cast ice magic, Absolute Zero, and threatened the emperor to release Adonis. But the emperor was not afraid of Chloe's threat. Seeing the emperor's silent attitude made Chloe even more emotional and was about to launch an attack. But suddenly, Chloe's magic disappeared in an instant. Chloe felt surprised. It turned out that humans had created a magic neutralizing device called the Atom 2 Magic Photon Inhibitor device. Humans had developed scientific powers that could create a very astonishing machine. Not only that, even Adonis couldn't activate his magic. The Emperor then approached Chloe and asked the witches to hand over this world to humans. A moment later, the Emperor ripped Chloe's shirt off, leaving her bare-chested, and then slapped her. The Emperor also said that a witch who couldn't use magic was just an ordinary woman. Without any empathy, the people of the Rhedia Empire with happy faces saw this as material for a show. Just seeing that made Adonis' emotions rise, but he couldn't do anything. Annoyed by Adonis' attitude, the Emperor then asked the guards to shoot him. Knowing this, Chloe then prostrated herself and said that this was her fault and had nothing to do with Adonis. With tears in her eyes, Chloe asked the Emperor to show mercy and forgive Adonis. Chloe didn't care about herself as long as Adonis survived. Seeing his teacher like that, Adonis cried and was going to destroy them all. The Emperor then took out a weapon, and Chloe happily accepted it. Chloe, with a smiling face, thanked Adonis. Adonis then remembered when he lived alone. At that time, Chloe came. With a smiling face, she then stretched out her hand to him. Adonis happily took Chloe's hand and said that he was very happy to be able to meet her. However, not long after that, the soldiers cruelly shot Chloe until her body was destroyed. Adonis was hysterical, asking them to stop it. Adonis recalled memories of his time with Chloe. It didn't stop there. The Emperor beheaded Chloe. The Emperor then took Chloe's head and proudly showed it off to his people. It was known that God once said to the witches that humans would fear them. Therefore, God asked the witches to bring peace to their world. If hostility occurred, then chaos and darkness would fall on the world. 10 years later, at the Mayhem prisoner camp, 2 prisoners were seen fighting over food. But not long after that, a woman named Daroka gave her bread so that they could get along. Seeing her best friend gave her the bread she was supposed to eat, made Anna ask if Daroka was okay. It was known that no matter how advanced technology was due to the super-industrial revolution, humans were still fighting each other. The war never stopped. Not long after that, the warden called number 218. It was known that the person who was called never returned. Anna was scared because she knew that she was the one who was called. But not long after that, Daroka answered. It turned out that Daroka suddenly exchanged her number with Anna. This made Anna tear up at her friend's kindness. Daroka was called by the head warden. However, she was shocked when the warden asked her to take off her clothes. It turned out that Daroka would be assigned to serve an important person. The warden said he would examine her body first. It was known that the warden treated prisoners very cruelly. After that, the warden forced Soroka to take a selfie with him. The photos would be sent to the head office. However, Daroka soon ran away with the warden's cell phone. She then tried to open the prison gate using the warden's cell phone. However, the plan failed because voice biometry was required from the warden. It turned out that Daroka had special abilities. She managed to open the prison gate by imitating the warden's voice. After all the prison gates opened, Daroka then shouted for them to escape. Without thinking, the prisoners scattered and ran away. Daroka opened one of the doors there. She was shocked by what she found. Suddenly, the warden came and stopped Daroka. They were panicked because all the prison gates were open. It turned out Adonis was locked up there. Adonis managed to break free from the chains that bound him. Seeing Adonis wanting to run away made the wardens there panic even more. They then planned to attack together and lock him up again. Adonis looked at Daroka. He felt Daroka recognized him. A moment later, Adonis jumped and killed one of the officers. The other officer was furious and was about to shoot Adonis with his gun. But suddenly, Adonis drew a knife and hit him right in the head. Seeing Adonis' brutality made the other wardens break out in cold sweat. But even so, he still took the gun. Seeing Daroka, Adonis approached her pointing a gun. Daroka then begged Adonis not to shoot her. Suddenly, Adonis fired his gun. Adonis only shot the chain that was in Daroka's hand. After that, he left. In the Mayhem prison, the wardens were asked to recapture the escaped prisoners. Fully armed, they rushed to carry out orders. In the capital, the head of the Security Bureau, General Yamato, gave Officer Ikout the task of immediately going to Mayhem prison and reporting the situation there. Ikout would also be happy to carry out tasks with the workforce. At Mayhem prison, the head warden was surprised because the storage room for confiscated goods had been opened. What was even more surprising was that the item stolen was a magic tool in the shape of a quill. The person who had stolen it was, of course, an SS-level danger person who was a permanent prisoner and was the apprentice of a magician named Adonis. On the other hand, Adonis then performs summoning magic and magnification to the maximum. A moment later, with a face full of hatred, Adonis will wipe out all humanity. On the other hand, it appeared that Ikout had eradicated all the prisoners he encountered. He also received reports that a building had been hit by bullets. He decided to go there soon. But before that, he intended to punish the warden who had caused problems. After that, Doroka was shocked to see a large bullet hitting a building. She felt guilty because she couldn't stop Adonis. Adonis could be seen walking in the middle of the crowd. He felt that Chloe would not agree to the plan. After 10 years had passed, Adonis never forgot Chloe's eyes, voice, and every word she said. Adonis then performed written summoning magic. Adonis looked at humans with hatred. The people ran around in great panic and many victims were injured because of this attack. Adonis, who was in the palm of the giant soldier's hand, then went to the Rhea Empire Palace to finish off Emperor Goth. In the palace, General Yamato was seen receiving a report from his subordinates that a giant soldier was breaking into the palace. It was also known that reports to Emperor Goth were obstructed by the Security Bureau. This made the subordinates feel that what Empress Andromeda said was true. It turned out that Emperor Goth's condition did not improve. Hearing this, Yamato asked them to declare an emergency situation immediately. He asked the Air Force for help. Not only that, Yamato also ordered tank troops to join the fight. Seeing the giant soldier, General Yamato was shocked. Yuki then reported that Adonis and the quill had disappeared. This made Yuki think that the source of the giant's power might be magic. Hearing this, General Yamato asked about the photon inhibitor device, which could eliminate magic. It turned out that the device was underground. However, because it was already a decade old, the soldiers doubted whether the device could still be turned on normally. General Yamato then asked Yuki to take care of it. It was seen that many victims had fallen due to Adonis' indiscriminate attacks. The tank troops had arrived and were preparing to attack. However, the tank troop shots were now on target. This surprised General Yamato because cannonballs could not fly straight. Adonis then responded to the attack by knocking down the building in front of him. It turned out that Adonis had mastered the theory and practice of magic within 10 years. Of course, those 10 years were very meaningful to him. In prison, Adonis had simulated an infinite mind. Academic research in Adonis' brain was the most suitable location to research methods of extermination. If non-witch people wanted to use magic, then there was only one way, which was mastering written summoning magic. They could try to understand the structure of magic, systematizing it, and then creating a formula with a specially made quill. Without the guidance of a great teacher like Chloe, this method would not be possible to understand. Adonis said that eradicating witches was the truth that humans meant. Adonis felt that humans who lived and enjoyed everything in this country also had the same sins. Adonis then performed a written summoning magic called Cannonball Bell. With an aura of evil, Adonis would respond in kind. Adonis was seen shooting at all the humans below him. Even though he felt an extraordinary view, Adonis shed tears and said that he should feel more pleasure. On the other hand, it appeared that Ikao already knew that the perpetrator of the attack was Adonis. He reported that Adonis was in the palm of a giant warrior. Hearing the report, General Yamato informed the entire troops that their enemy was Adonis. We could see the fighter jets starting to attack. However, the attack made residents even more panicked because the explosion was so powerful that many people there became victims. There was a small child who mourned the departure of his mother. He didn't realize that a building would collapse on him. But fortunately, Doroka then entrusted the little child to someone. Meanwhile, she would go to stop Adonis. Adonis was seen lying on the ground. He realized that his body had become sluggish. At the same time, the soldiers began to get off the helicopter to catch Adonis. In the palace, Emperor Goth was seen lying on his bed. Empress Andromeda then asked him to rest well because she reassured him that the country was fine. It turned out that Empress Andromeda was hiding the fact that the country was being attacked by Adonis. It was known that Emperor Gothi was suffering from an incurable disease. He realized that he had been cursed. Even so, he did not regret his actions. He had built a sophisticated scientific civilization and burned down the witches so that humans could move forward. As long as witches still existed, Emperor Goth felt that there would be no progress for humanity. Humanity must use its own strength to open the way. Emperor Goth thought that magic was not needed in the new era because it would be an obstacle. Emperor Goth emphasized that he had done the right thing. At the same time, the troops had been completely wiped out by Adonis. General Yamato did not think that Adonis could eradicate the troops alone. The remaining soldier told Adonis that he should have been eradicated along with the witch Chloe 10 years ago. With a cold face, Adonis answered that he hoped that would happen. But when Adonis was about to finish him off, Doroka came to stop him. Doroka begged Adonis not to fight again because he had taken the lives of many people in this country. Doroka also said that she didn't want to see innocent people die. But Adonis still killed the soldier. Adonis said that all of humanity was his enemy. Even prisoners like Doroka were the same. But it turned out Doroka knew Chol. She said that Chloe didn't want Adonis to do that. Even Doroka knew Chloe's real name. Hearing this made Adonis very angry because Doroka spoke too intimately with him. Adonis felt that Klo was just bait until the next troops arrived. This was a trick humans used. They never fought honestly, just like 10 years ago. If it weren't for playing tricks and fighting fairly, it would be impossible for him and Klo to be defeated by humans. Adonis said that if Daroka didn't understand anything, she could not interfere in his business. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Daroka was a witch. Adonis released his grip. However, a few moments later, Adonis grabbed Daroka's neck again because he believed that witches had long been extinct. Daroka painfully said that she was a survivor of a witch hunt. Hearing this, Adonis asked why they didn't come to save Klo and instead ignored their friend until she died. Daroka apologized as everyone was busy running away. With a sharp gaze, Adonis said that an apology alone wouldn't be able to bring Klo back. But Daroka said something surprising, that Klo could be resurrected. After releasing his grip, Adonis said that Daroka had insulted him. He then tried to perform summoning magic. But Daroka convinced Adonis that she had sneaked into this country to save him. All this was done to revive Klo. The condition for awakening her was that there must be memories belonging to Adonis and Klo. But Adonis didn't care about that because everyone who mentioned Klo's name must be exterminated. With a smiling face, Daroka agreed to Adonis' words so that he would be happy. But suddenly, after seeing Klo's face radiating from Daroka, Adonis cried. Adonis asked whether his teacher could be resurrected. Daroka agreed with Adonis' words and asked him to come with her because he was no longer alone. But when Adonis was about to take Daroka's hand, they were attacked. It turned out that the person who carried out the attack was Oukoku. Even though they hit Daroka, Oukoku was dissatisfied because his shot didn't hit Adonis. The scene then continued with Daroka's past being shown. At that time, her hometown was attacked by military forces. Seeing this incident, of course, made Daroka scared. Military troops were seen torturing a witch and shooting others indiscriminately. Daroka, who was scared, was then hugged by Mia. Daroka asked what happened. However, Mia didn't know anything about the intent and purpose of humans attacking suddenly. Daroka still couldn't believe it because so far Witch's relationship with humans had been very harmonious. Daroka then asked Mia to use her power, but Mia couldn't do it because there was a device that could seal magic power. Feeling that Mrs. Ophelia Clementine knew something, Mia asked Daroka to run and go to her to ask what happened. Because she was the only one who would run, of course, Daroka refused. Mia couldn't go with Daroka because she had been cruelly injured by military forces. Mia had taken Daroka to Mrs. Ophelia's place before, so she was sure that Daroka could get there alone. Mia then fueled Daroka's enthusiasm by playing with a doll. Because there was no other choice, Daroka ran from there. After Daroka ran quite far, Mia was seen being found by military troops. The military troops immediately executed Mia. The scene then shifted to the present. Daroka was seen dying after being hit by a shot from Oukoku. Adonis then embraced Daroka and asked what she must do to bring Klo back to life. Daroka then said something to Adonis. Not long after, Adonis was surrounded by military forces. Oukoku confidently said to General Yamato that Adonis was over. Adonis hadn't given up yet. He performed written summoning magic. Seeing this, the military troops then shot Adonis continuously. However, it turned out that the shot was easily blocked by Adonis. This made General Yamato feel annoyed. After successfully stopping the military troops' bullets, Adonis then used reverse magic. All the bullets fired turned back to attack the troops at Oukoku. Oukoku aimed at Adonis and fired his shot, but Adonis managed to hold him back again. To counter Oukoku's attack, Adonis then used grand reversal magic. The bullet became large and turned to attack the building where Oukoku was. General Yamato hoped that Yuki would hurry up and turn on the anti-magic device. On the other hand, Yuki was surprised to see an anti-magic device called DM. By turning on this device, humanity could seal Adonis. Yuki felt happy because in the end she could help her brother. She asked her subordinates to immediately turn on DM. However, the head of the Science Bureau, Theta Seminsta, appeared. She won't let Yuki activate the DM device. After that, Theta was seen calling General Yamato via Yuki's cell phone. Theta informed him that he could not activate the DM device. Hearing this, General Yamato asked Theta to explain the reason. Theta answered that she could not reveal the scientific particles emitted by the DM device. Theta also asked whether General Yamato had ever heard of loss of body self-function syndrome. It was known that the disease was experienced by military troops during a witch hunt 10 years ago. Theta suspected that the scientific particles released by DM were the cause of the disease. Because he just found out about this, of course, General Yamato was surprised. General Yamato didn't know anything about it because the news had been buried. Theta stated that if a human body was hit by these science particles, it would be destroyed. It was suspected that the cause of Emperor Gao's prolonged illness was that he was frequently exposed to scientific particles released by DM. Knowing this fact, of course, made General Yamato feel annoyed. He couldn't stop Adonis, who continued to exterminate military soldiers. Theta then asked Yuki to go home after learning this fact. But suddenly, Yuki ran towards Diam with tears in her eyes. Yuki said that now was not the time to think about whether she was sick or not because there was a threat of magic before her eyes and there were orders she had to complete. Seeing Yuki's reckless behavior, Theta asked the others to step down. Meanwhile, she would stop Yuki. Theta asked Yuki not to turn on the DM device even for a moment because it would still cause danger. Because the mission was very important, Yuki didn't pay attention to Theta's words. In the end, Yuki managed to turn on the device, which made the magic Adonis use suddenly disappear. Seeing this, General Yamato then asked Theta what happened. With her body covered in blood, Theta lied to General Yamato that nothing had happened. It could be seen that Theta had also turned off the DM device. Knowing that General Yamato was worried about Yuki made Theta reprimand him. Because General Yamato was the head of the Security Bureau, he must remember his job and eliminate anyone who wanted to harm the Rydia Empire and put aside his personal feelings. With her mouth covered in blood, Theta said that the Rydia Empire was an invincible empire. General Yamato woke up and asked his subordinates to carry out an ambush. Seeing the military troops coming and attacking made Adonis panic. He immediately ran to pick up his fallen quill. Military troops were preparing to shoot Adonis. However, one of the members ran towards Adonis. At the same time, buildings were seen collapsing and blocking Adonis with military troops. One of the military members who approached Adonis prepared to slash his body using a thermochemical bayonet weapon. Knowing that he would die, Adonis surrendered because in the end he could be by Clo's side. A moment later, the soldier slashed Adonis' head. Adonis died instantly. The soldier then showed the head of the witch's apprentice to military troops. Seeing this made the military troops very happy. The soldier who succeeded in cutting down Adonis received praise from his colleagues. Seeing that Adonis had died made General Yamato feel relieved. He asked his subordinates to confirm Theta and Yuki's condition. With full confidence, General Yamato felt that the strength of the Rydia Empire was as solid as a mountain. After that, Emperor Goth was heard giving a speech in front of his people that this forbidden power still existed in this world. The young man who was captured 10 years ago escaped and caused a terrible tragedy in the Rydia Empire. Emperor Goth also said that Adonis was a human being like himself, but he had been tricked by magic. Adonis was an evil remnant from the old world. After trying for 10 years, humans still didn't understand how Adonis could control magic. Emperor Goth thought that this disaster occurred because 10 years ago Adonis was allowed to live. With great pride, Emperor Goth said that the Rydia Empire was the pinnacle of this world because it had mastered the science and had soldiers with souls of steel. The Rydia Empire would not submit to any evil. Emperor Goth considered the Rydia Empire to be the new god. After that, a high school student was seen looking at Adonis' photos and admiring him. But she was suddenly surprised by the appearance of a man from the government. The student was worried and wanted to delete Adonis' photo. But the man didn't mind it because he wouldn't complain to anyone. Feeling anxious, the student said goodbye and immediately left. The man was the head of the intelligence bureau named Oz Gorgeous. He then asked his subordinates to arrest the female student because she was attracted to Adonis. He asked his men to send her to the security bureau for punishment. After that, the chief investigator of the intelligence bureau, Charmy, was seen telling Oz that Adonis' body was fake. It turned out Adonis was still alive. He was seen moaning in pain because his body temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure continued to increase. Adonis experienced this because humans were unable to carry out multidimensional teleportation. Not long after that, an old woman known as Mrs. Ophelia arrived. She provided stimulation to Adonis' brain so that he could return to normal. This made Adonis remember his past with Clo. The scene suddenly shifted. A woman was faking Adonis' death using doubling magic and death faking. Her name was Anna. She was a witch who infiltrated the Rydia Empire together with Daroka. This was the witch's plan to bring Clo back to life. Anna then asked Mrs. Ophelia to see Adonis off. A moment later, Adonis' body was wrapped in cloth and disappeared. It was this incident that put Adonis in Mrs. Ophelia's place. Adonis began to regain consciousness. Mrs. Ophelia then hugged Adonis and thanked him for fighting so hard for the witches. But Adonis suddenly let go of Ophelia's arms and asked who the old woman was. Seeing the many women in that place made Adonis realize that he was in the Witch Kingdom. Later, Adonis was placed in a wheelchair. Mrs. Ophelia then said that the Witch Kingdom was a secret territory that humans could not enter. This would also have a bad impact on Adonis' body. Not long after that, one of the witches was seen announcing that this season the Witch Kingdom would have a big harvest. Mrs. Ophelia then took the fruit and smelled it. Adonis then asked what Mrs. Ophelia had done to him. Mrs. Ophelia answered that she only wanted to invite Adonis to visit the Witch Kingdom. It turned out that Mrs. Ophelia knew that Adonis was Chloe's student. Mrs. Ophelia also said that all the witches in this kingdom knew Chloe. She was stronger than anyone and was also very wise and cheerful. She was also a gentle witch. Even though Chloe was a witch with an ice attribute, her heart was as warm as the sun. She had become a role model for witches, but she was expelled from the witch kingdom instead. Adonis denied this and said that Chloe was not expelled but kicked out because she had taught magic to a human child. That human child was Adonis. Hearing this, Mrs. Ophelia suspected that Chloe told Adonis this, but Adonis denied it and said that he could feel it. Moreover, he and Chloe lived together for quite a long time. Mrs. Ophelia then said that for witches, magic was as irreplaceable as their souls. This was proof of the love and sacrifice bestowed by God so that witches could guide humans to the right path. Teaching magic to humans was taboo. Chloe accepted humans as apprentices and no one knew why she did it. At that time, all the witches begged Chloe to leave her students and return to the wizard kingdom. But she only replied with one sentence that she was sorry. Mrs. Ophelia showed Adonis' quill to him. Seeing his quill, Adonis insisted on asking Mrs. Ophelia to return it. Mrs. Ophelia then said that the object was made from phoenix feathers and decorated with waves and red dragon eyes. After returning it, Mrs. Ophelia realized that the quill was made by Chloe specifically for Adonis. Hearing Adonis' question about resurrecting Chloe made Mrs. Ophelia say that witches didn't lie. Hearing this, Adonis felt relieved and happy with the news. Adonis looked up and he was shocked. He saw planet Earth in the sky of the wizard kingdom. Mrs. Ophelia said that this place was a secret world that humans could not touch. This place was a silent star. The witches came to this place 10 years ago and founded a new holy place of the witch kingdom called Lunamilia. After that, Mrs. Ophelia and Adonis went outside. While looking at the Earth, Mrs. Ophelia said that science had released human nature. Maybe God created planet Earth to prevent humans from seeing anything beyond their abilities. Mrs. Ophelia also showed many tombstones of fallen witches. Not only tombstones, but Mrs. Ophelia also invited Adonis to see the Tree of Life, which gave birth to the witch. It was Adonis' first time to see the Tree of Life in person. Adonis said that Chloe didn't want to tell him much about the witch's birth. It was known that witches were all of the same gender, unlike humans. Witches could still have offspring, and they could only be born from the Tree of Life with divine power. The tree in front of them was the last tree brought from the earth. All other trees of life had been burned by humans. A moment later, Adonis seemed to see Chloe and one of the fruits of the gods on the Tree of Life. However, Mrs. Ophelia denies that. In the fruit of the gods, there were only witches waiting to be born. If he wanted Chloe to be reborn, then she needed the strength of Adonis. Adonis asked what Mrs. Ophelia meant. Mrs. Ophelia explained that magic was the result of manifestations created through the witch's mind. If Adonis could master written summoning magic, then he could make anything happen with his mind. In other words, it was all-purpose magic. One example was memory, which was the source of life. If Adonis could put all his memories of Chloe into the Tree of Life, maybe he could resurrect Chloe. However, Mrs. Ophelia didn't need to continue explaining because Adonis definitely understood what she meant. However, the key to resurrecting Chloe lay with Adonis. When she was about to leave, Mrs. Ophelia asked Adonis to contact her when he was ready because Mrs. Ophelia was about to start the ritual. After that, Adonis was seen lying relaxed in front of the Tree of Life. Not long after, Anna was seen coming to meet Adonis and asked if Adonis didn't have anything to say. Seeing Adonis' attitude as if nothing had happened made Anna feel annoyed. With tears in her eyes, Anna said that Daroka died because of Adonis. But Adonis didn't care about that because it was their own plan that made her die. Seeing Adonis leave in front of her made Anna even more annoyed and said that humans were selfish. As long as there was magic and the Tree of Life, Adonis' beloved teacher could be resurrected many times. That must have made Adonis feel very lucky. With sadness, Anna was confused about why the witches sacrificed their lives to save someone like Adonis. Hearing this, Adonis said that the witches wanted to take advantage of Chloe by saving him to get a quill. Seeing Anna's expression, Adonis told her not to pretend to be stupid. It turned out Adonis learned this from Daroka right before she died. She once said that the witches were planning to take advantage of Chloe. Daroka also said that Adonis and Chloe should run away from the witch kingdom together. Adonis also knew that this place was a bird's nest for humanity. It was known that witches kidnapped human slaves or children through multidimensional teleportation. They wanted to teach them written summoning magic and let them fight because if the nearly extinct witches wanted to defeat humans, they would need a replacement fighting force. Only Chloe had the ability to make quills. That was why the witches wanted to resurrect Chloe. Anna was shocked because Adonis knew this fact. With tears in her eyes, Anna asked Adonis to help the witches so that Daroka's sacrifice would not be in vain. Hearing this, Adonis said that he only wanted to resurrect Chloe. He just wanted to respect her wishes. However, if Chloe rejected the witches, then the witches would become her enemies. After that, the ritual began. Adonis then performed written summoning magic. There were lots of balls of light inside which contained memories of Adonis and Clo. The fruit of the gods then absorbed the light. Adonis remembered the memory of Clo showing him the constellations. It turned out that Adonis had memorized all the constellations that Clo had told him about before. Knowing this, Clo felt that her student was a genius. After that, Adonis said that the time he had spent with Clo was irreplaceable. The scene returned to Adonis' past memories. At that time, Adonis was tidying up Clo's clothes. However, he was shocked when he saw Clo, who was not wearing clothes. It was discovered at that time that Clo's body had bruises all over her body. However, when Clo reprimanded him, Adonis blushed. When he was about to leave, Adonis told Clo to quickly finish her bath because pursuers could appear any time. With tears in her eyes, Clo thanked Adonis for always accompanying her. If there was no Adonis, she would definitely not be able to survive in this world. Hearing this, Adonis was shocked and couldn't say anything. After that, Adonis was seen saying that he loved Clo. Soon, the fruit of the gods was seen shining very brightly. There was a woman who came out of there. Then the fruit of the gods gave birth to Daroka. Adonis didn't resurrect his beloved teacher because he didn't want Clo to experience the same torture as before. Adonis felt that there was no place for the woman he loved in this rotten world. Before the ritual was finished, Adonis performed memory exchange magic. Originally, he cast memory magic with Clo, but he changed it to Daroka. Knowing this, Mrs. Ophelia was surprised when Daroka got up. Adonis said that she didn't like being in debt. Daroka knew that the man in front of her was Adonis. She realized that she was in the witch kingdom of Lunamilia. Daroka was still confused because she should have died from being shot by a human. Realizing that she wasn't wearing any clothes, of course, made Daroka panic. Adonis then gave clothes to Daroka and said that he had saved her in Rhedia. This incident made them break even. Seeing Adonis' behavior, which didn't arouse Clo, made Mrs. Ophelia feel very annoyed. They had helped Adonis and were willing to risk their lives to save him. They did this so that Adonis could resurrect Clo, but the kindness of the witches had been loved by Adonis. This, of course, made Mrs. Ophelia and the witches angry. Mrs. Ophelia suspected that Daroka had said something to Adonis. Daroka, who had previously told Adonis the truth, of course, felt panicked and afraid. Knowing that Daroka was cornered made Adonis say that he had decided not to resurrect Clo. Seeing Adonis' behavior, Mrs. Ophelia was annoyed and was about to attack him. But suddenly, a portal of light appeared around them. Seeing this, Mrs. Ophelia was shocked and realized that danger was coming. She suspected that Adonis had done something. It turned out that Adonis had a tracking device implanted in his body. This made humans discover their place. Suddenly, they saw the Tree of Life burning. Mrs. Ophelia was surprised. At the same time, the head of the Security Bureau, General Yamato, appeared with his troops. General Yamato said that the witches were trapped. However, Adonis was not at all afraid of the presence of human troops. Adonis said that he had invited them. Aurea then calmed Mrs. Ophelia because she would put out the fire that was burning the Tree of Life. However, just after Aurea cast her water magic, her head was slashed by a soldier. Seeing this made Mrs. Ophelia furious. She asked Santa Maria to take out magic armor. Magic armor would make all witches have armor. Then they prepared to fight. On the other hand, Adonis was seen going to face General Yamato. However, when Adonis was about to cast his magic, General Yamato suddenly attacked him. But luckily, Adonis managed to avoid it even though his face was hit. Adonis, who cast butterfly magic, managed to take General Yamato's gun. Adonis' shot was unable to injure General Yamato because he had quite strong armor. However, because Adonis kept shooting at him, General Yamato's armor was damaged. But suddenly, Daroka pulled Adonis' shirt as if to signal him to stop doing it. On the other hand, Crystal Maya was seen starting to cast her magic, which made human soldiers covered in crystals. Not only that, other witches began to show their strength, starting with the snake witch, Daikya, who attacked with a giant snake. The tendril witch, Griana, used centipedes to attack human soldiers. Some used arrows and tree roots. It could be seen that Mrs. Ophelia used physical magic that made human soldiers float in the air. After eradicating them, Mrs. Ophelia confidently said that humans were indeed weak. She thought that the witches had won. However, it turned out that the second crew of human soldiers managed to teleport and kill several witches. Seeing this, Mrs. Ophelia realized that the witches were outnumbered. On the other hand, that it was seen being interrogated by the head of the government bureau named Dynasma. Dynasma asked why so many witches still survived even though they were already exterminated. Theta explained that the machine on the monitor was the -89, which was known to be a prototype of physical teleportation. But with the addition of new machines, -89 had been abandoned in space during a witch extermination operation. Referring to the image on the monitor, it could be concluded that -89 was suspected to have been taken by witches. So in essence, they had used human technology to escape into space. It was also known that the building they lived in was not detected by the Rydia Kingdom's sky mirror radar. Seeing these facts, Dynasma was furious with the Science Bureau. The Rydia Kingdom had poured a lot of money into the Science Bureau every year. However, their contribution was not there at all. Seeing Dynasma getting emotional, a director of the Intelligence Bureau named Shirasaji calmed him down. Shirasaji considered witch hunting to be outdated. Because of Adonis' actions, Yuki was in critical condition. This made General Yamato not forgive him. With a face full of emotion, General Yamato prepared to fight. Adonis collapsed after being hit by the blow. General Yamato saw Daroka approaching. Adonis reminded her to be careful because now General Yamato was preparing to attack with blazing force. General Yamato prepared to attack. Before carrying out the attack, General Yamato then reminded Adonis and his younger brother from the bottom of his heart. General Yamato said that when this battle was over, he wanted to find a quiet place to live with Yuki. A moment later, General Yamato launched the Demon Exorcist Leto attack. Suddenly, the attack was so strong that it was able to cut down the witches easily, including Mrs. Ophelia, whose body was cut into 2 parts. Daroka was also attacked, but fortunately she was saved by Anna. Sadly, Anna was hit by an attack which made Daroka hysterical. It was known that the command center of the Rydia Kingdom lost communication with the troops on the moon. Because their visuals had been interrupted, Adonis was seen casting his armored arm magic, and the fight between the two of them resumed attacks. Adonis managed to injure General Yamato. However, the attack was still not enough to overthrow him. It could be seen that the surviving witches are starting to despair about their situation. However, Mrs. Ophelia asked them to keep fighting. However, because the Tree of Life had burned down, the witches felt that their kind had been wiped out. But there was one of the witches who encouraged them not to give up and asked them to help Adonis. But a moment later, he was killed. Feeling cornered, General Yamato then released his science armor energy to maximum level. This made Adonis bounce when he attacked him. Suddenly, General Yamato managed to stab Adonis. This, of course, made General Yamato feel confident. But unexpectedly, Adonis put out a huge sword and cut his left arm. Even though his arm was cut, General Yamato managed to block his blood flow with the power of the science armor he had. Feeling that General Yamato had a desire for revenge made Adonis feel that he and General Yamato had the same expression. Adonis then stood. General Yamato approached him and was about to cut him down. The scene then shifted to the Royal Command Center of the Rydia Empire. It could be seen that the humans were starting to panic because communication with General Yamato's troops had been lost. Amid the panic, they still thought that the Elite Security Bureau troops were impossible to defeat. Not long after that, they finally managed to contact the human troops on the moon. General Yamato announced that they had achieved victory because all the witches on the moon had been successfully destroyed. The scene returned to when General Yamato was about to cut Adonis. But when General Yamato was about to do it, Daroka shouted and asked them to stop. General Yamato suddenly couldn't move. It turned out that Daroka used a love spell to restrain him. Not only General Yamato, but even the troops that were also affected by Daroka's magic. Daroka then approached General Yamato and asked his name. General Yamato then answered Daroka's question because he couldn't control his mouth. General Yamato tried to fight, making Daroka use her restraining magic again. Seeing that General Yamato couldn't move, Adonis asked Daroka to finish him off. But what Daroka did was beyond reason. Even though many of her people had been killed, she instead shook General Yamato's hand and asked him to make peace. Daroka innocently asked him to stop hunting witches. Adonis, who heard this, of course, became annoyed because her best friend Anna and all of Daroka's colleagues had been killed by humans. But she still let humans live and return to Earth. Adonis' words just now were in line with what the witches thought. Adonis said that if she didn't finish him now, then Daroka would die. General Yamato then managed to escape and was seen hitting Daroka repeatedly in a fit of anger. He said that humans would eradicate witches with the power of science. But talk about stopping war was just nonsense. General Yamato also said that the existence of witches had brought disaster to this world, just like what Adonis did to his country. Many innocent people died tragically at the hands of Adonis. General Yamato really hated witches because his sister Yuki was a victim. Hearing General Yamato's ramblings made Daroka say that humans had also eradicated many people during the witch hunt 10 years ago. Even though she was battered, Daroka still hoped that humans and witches could be friends. With smiling faces, Daroka asked General Yamato to end the war and ordered his soldiers to retreat. Daroka was sure that General Yamato would definitely obey her words. Suddenly, General Yamato had a heart on his face. General Yamato tried to escape Daroka's love spell because he thought that he was the head of the Security Bureau and was known to be very strong. There was no way he could lose with magic like this. But in the end, General Yamato was influenced by Daroka's love spell and he was willing to obey Daroka's words. But suddenly, General Yamato's head was stabbed by Adonis with his sword. After killing General Yamato, Adonis said that inside him there was only the determination to take revenge. He also thought that Daroka's love spell was very strong because it could make other people fall in love with her. Seeing what Adonis was doing, Daroka scolded him. But Adonis didn't care and asked Daroka to use this magic to eradicate the humans in the palace. Emperor Goth was seen receiving a report that the Security Bureau troops were fighting against the witches on the moon. But they still didn't know the conditions of the war because the connection with the Security Bureau had been lost. Soldiers also believed in Emperor Goth that they would definitely win. Hearing this, Emperor Goth was happy and asked that all witches and Adonis be immediately destroyed. Emperor Goth then embraced Empress Andromeda and asked that she praise him. Seeing Emperor Goth's expression, the soldier there felt that he had become dazed. But what was even more surprising was that Emperor Goth looked like a madman. He was hungry for Empress Andromeda's praise. But a moment later, a surprising thing happened. It turned out that Empress Andromeda was a witch who was able to use the love spell. She was seen praising Emperor Goth for working hard in the witch hunt. After saying that, Empress Andromeda then asked him to die. Of course, Emperor Goth compiled because he had been affected by a love spell. Emperor Goth was excited because he was going to die. Seeing this, of course, made the soldier there amazed. Meanwhile, Empress Andromeda encouraged Emperor Goth to commit suicide. Emperor Goth climbed the parapet and prepared to jump down. The soldier there tried to stop Emperor Goth and asked him to come down, but Emperor Goth scolded him. Emperor Goth said that he had made science develop rapidly and made the Rhedia Empire the strongest country, even eliminating all witches. It turned out that Emperor Goth had been doing this on orders from Empress Andromeda. With tears in his eyes, Emperor Goth said that he wanted to always be Empress Andromeda's slave. Because she was bored, Empress Andromeda then asked Emperor Goth to immediately jump. After Emperor Goth died, Empress Andromeda then released her magic. Seeing this, the soldier there would ask for help and report that there was a witch in the city. However, Empress Andromeda again used love magic and asked the soldier to report that Emperor Goth fell himself because he slipped. Because he was affected by love magic, the soldier did what Empress Andromeda ordered. The head of the intelligence bureau, Shirosagi, was a subordinate of Empress Andromeda. Empress Andromeda said that her magic could only control men and was not effective against women. It turned out that Empress Andromeda thought that witches were a threat. Therefore, she eradicated them. Empress Andromeda also told Shirosagi that the head she got next time was a fake. Then Shirosagi should understand what would happen to his fate. It was revealed that Empress Andromeda's real name was Dorothea Greth. She was a witch who could fly to multidimensional. Her hypocrisy had been left in the past. On the other hand, Adonis was seen still asking Daroka to eradicate humans, but Daroka refused. Hearing this, Adonis again asked not to remove his magic because he would finish off the remaining soldiers. Adonis then cast written summoning magic and began the action. Even though Daroka shouted for Adonis not to eradicate them, Adonis still stood firm in his stance. Because she couldn't stand seeing this, Daroka tried to use magic to stop Adonis. But Adonis suddenly came and threatened Daroka. Adonis returned to finish off the remaining soldiers. Daroka, who didn't give up, again asked Adonis to stop. Everything he does would not change anything and his revenge would only add to new hatred. However, Daroka's words were completely ignored by Adonis. He didn't want to hear cliché reasons like that. With tears in her eyes, Daroka said that she didn't want to see the two sides continue to fight. She didn't want to see many lives disappear before her eyes because that would be very sad. After that, Adonis was seen taking General Yamamoto's head and his cell phone. He then used written summoning magic to change his voice to that of General Yamamoto. It turned out that General Yamamoto, who contacted the Royal Command Center, was Adonis. He used General Yamamoto's skin to make a call with the command center in the Rhedia Empire. However, Theta discovered Adonis' cunning because she knew that the person appearing on the monitor was not General Yamamoto. Adonis asked the command center to open a dimensional portal. Adonis pretended to carry the head of Witch Apprentice. Mrs. Ophelia, who was still awake, knew that this was the plan Adonis made since the beginning. Adonis then held Daroka's hand because her magic was very useful. However, Adonis' words earned him a hard slap from Daroka. If Chloe saw it, who knew what she would think? A moment later, a dimensional portal opened and would take Adonis and Daroka to a place that had been prepared. Mrs. Ophelia thought that Adonis was the most evil human child. She also prayed for Adonis to receive punishment from God. Mrs. Ophelia then apologized because she couldn't live up to expectations and couldn't get the glory of the witches. On the other hand, soldiers could be seen starting to stand by at the place where Adonis would emerge from the dimensional portal. Theta would avenge General Yamamoto against Adonis. Just as the transmission was about to finish, the soldiers started shooting indiscriminately. Theta thought that Adonis would teleport at the specified coordinates. That was why she asked the soldiers to greet Adonis with a hail of bullets. However, it turned out that Adonis had changed his teleportation coordinates. What was worse, humans couldn't track their whereabouts. They'd appraised Adonis' intelligence. On the other side, Adonis and Daroka could be seen teleporting. Currently, they were in the desert looking at the Southern Cross constellation. Adonis announced that they had returned to Earth. Adonis couldn't rush if he wanted to bring down the Redia Empire. He needed a mature plan to do it. It was known that when they were about to teleport, Daroka said that there were still witches alive. However, Adonis ignored her and immediately changed the teleportation coordinates using General Yamamoto's voice. Daroka wanted to go back and live with the witches, but Adonis scolded her because in such a situation, none of the witches on the moon could survive. However, Daroka believed that there were witches who were still alive. Therefore, she wanted to return to the moon. Daroka said that Adonis always talked about revenge. Hearing this, Adonis then used memory summoning magic and showed Daroka talking to General Yamamoto. Adonis also said that Daroka was the strangest of all the witches because she wanted to make peace with humans. Daroka then said that she always looked forward to meeting Adonis. She wondered what kind of person Chloe would choose. Even though Adonis was human, he had become a witch's apprentice. Daroka felt that Adonis could be a bridge of communication between humans and witches. With tears in her eyes, Daroka said that Adonis could be everyone's hope. Hearing this, Adonis felt that Daroka didn't understand him at all. Daroka reiterated that if witches and humans hated each other and could not forgive, then this battle would never end. However, Daroka's words would not change Adonis' decision because Chloe's life was more valuable than the lives of all mankind. According to Adonis, the world that took Chloe's life should perish too. Hearing this, Daroka felt that Adonis had sacrificed the witches because Adonis was the one who lured humans to come to the moon. However, Adonis did not regret it at all because the witches had become the best shield for him. Daroka was angry because Adonis had laughed at the witches' sacrifice. However, Adonis turned to scold Daroka because she had spoken wisely, but when they died, Daroka could only remain silent and watch. What was worse, Daroka even wanted to make peace with humans. According to Adonis, it was Daroka who insulted their sacrifice. Hearing this, Daroka shed tears again because even if Adonis took revenge, the wound in her heart would not disappear. But Adonis didn't care about that because he now had nothing. Adonis left Daroka. But suddenly, Daroka said that Chloe sacrificed her life to save Adonis. No matter how empty and cruel this world was, Adonis must not fall into that abyss of emptiness. Daroka didn't ask Adonis to forgive them. However, if he continued to seek revenge, Adonis' heart would gradually collapse, and he would become like the people who killed Chloe. Leaning her head against Adonis' body, Daroka said that Adonis still had many things he could still look after. Hearing this, Adonis felt that Daroka didn't understand him. According to Adonis, revenge was the meaning of his existence and was irreplaceable evidence. He once shared his life with Chloe. If he stopped taking revenge, then all traces of Chloe's existence would disappear. Adonis was afraid of that. Adonis asked Daroka if she could understand that feeling. Seeing Daroka shed tears again, Adonis said that all she could do was cry. Daroka then panicked when she saw Adonis faint because he was bleeding a lot. Not long after that, they were discovered by a motorbike gang led by Punch. Daroka asked them for help because her friend was injured. Daroka reasoned that they were lost. The scene then shifted. Adonis was seen waking up in an old hut, and his wounds had also been treated. After remembering the previous incident, Adonis felt that this area was under the control of a motorbike gang. Not long after that, Punch came to see Adonis. He offered him a drink. Seeing Punch's face, Adonis assumed that he was an outcast. Adonis refused Punch to offer it because he did not want to drink wastewater. With a laughing expression, Punch said that his drink was humanity's greatest invention. Punch then introduced his name to Adonis. Looking at the surrounding conditions, Adonis felt that this area was not controlled by the Redia Empire. Adonis then asked the girl he was with. That girl was Daroka. It turned out that Daroka had been treating Adonis' wounds, but now she had been taken by Punch's men. Seeing Adonis' face starting to get emotional, Punch asked Adonis to come with him. This place was called Waste Plains, which was the other side of the super-industrial revolution. This place contained a gathering of refugees and slaves who fled from the Redia Empire. Gradually, they all became outcasts. However, not long after that, Daroka's voice was heard, which seemed to be being disturbed by the men. Punch then said that women were very rare in this area. Moreover, a girl like Daroka was beautiful and had a beautiful body. With a happy face, Punch said that Adonis' girlfriend's screams were really sweet. Hearing this, Adonis of course became emotional and immediately ran to help Daroka. However, it turned out that the residents there were watching Daroka doing a motorbike ride. With joy, they thought that Daroka's performance was very good. Seeing Adonis there, Daroka felt grateful because he had regained consciousness. But not long after that, Daroka couldn't control her motorbike and fell. Even though her face was bleeding, Daroka was still worried about Adonis. Doroka then gave Adonis a pair of dolls with the faces of herself and Adonis. Doroka apologized because she shouldn't talk about things she shouldn't discuss about. However, Adonis had the heart to throw away the doll Doroka gave him. After that, Punch announced that they were going to party. Punch told Adonis and Doroka to pour drinks because they had been saved. In the evening, they were seen partying and drinking together. According to Punch's request, Doroka became a waiter and poured drinks for them. An old man was seen teasing Doroka because he couldn't stand seeing Doroka's breasts. The old man reasoned that his hands were difficult to control, but the old man's wishes did not match his expectations. Instead of holding Doroka's breasts, he was holding some kind of cake in both hands. Initially, Doroka celebrated the party with a happy face. However, when Adonis glared at her, Doroka seemed to change her expression. Seeing this, the men there asked Doroka if she was fighting with her boyfriend. However, Doroka denied this. The men there thought that their two countries had been destroyed by the Rhedia Empire. That was why they ran to this place. Doroka then reasoned that she and her partner were traveling the world together. However, when they heard Doroka's explanation, they laughed because it was such a weird time to travel around the world. Suddenly, something surprising happened. Everyone there suddenly fainted. Doroka panicked. Adonis then came and told her that the outcasts didn't look at what they ate. Hearing this, Doroka suspected that Adonis had poisoned them all. But Adonis denied this because he only poured their drink on several sleeping pills. Seeing Adonis take the weapons from them, Doroka suspected that Adonis would exterminate them all. But it turned out that Adonis wouldn't do it because exiles were not considered humans. Adonis said that he no longer needed Doroka. Hearing this, Doroka was of course surprised and asked why Adonis said that. Adonis explained that he had lost someone as precious as Doroka, but he couldn't have fun like Doroka did before, especially when mingling with the exiles. Adonis and Doroka couldn't get along at all. Hearing this, Doroka said that she had no other choice but to blend in with them because she was afraid that her identity as a witch would be discovered. Even though Doroka had explained and cried, Adonis still insisted that they were not compatible. After that, Adonis left her. Doroka was sad until the next morning came. One of the giant lizards there then licked her, which made Doroka thank it. Punch was seen coming over to Doroka and saying that Adonis was very rude because he left without saying thank you to him. Moreover, he had left a girl in a place like this. Remembering Adonis' previous words, Doroka felt that Adonis was a very good person. Unexpectedly, Punch knew Adonis' true identity. Punch knew about it because he had met him before. He would never forget what happened that day. In the past, Punch almost died while in the desert. But suddenly, he saw snow falling and the Ice Witch came to see him. While giving him a bottle of water, Punch felt that having someone willing to fight the world for him was the greatest happiness that could be obtained. He also said that Doroka's thoughts might be right. However, revenge could be a good or bad thing. That was not something that could be determined easily. Because this world was so cruel and hard to see, Adonis chose the path of revenge. Even though he knew that the path he chose was wrong, he had no other way to turn back. Punch then asked what path Doroka had chosen. Doroka answered that she didn't want to see the people closest to her die. Previously, she couldn't protect Anna and the other witches. Therefore, she must at least be able to protect Adonis. On the other hand, Adonis was seen remembering his memories with Doroka. But suddenly someone came towards him. Adonis thought that the Rhedia Empire troops had found him. However, it turned out that Doroka came on a motorbike. Seeing Doroka's behavior, Adonis, feeling irritated, thought that Doroka wanted to hit him to death. Doroka then said that she would try her best not to bother Adonis. With a red smiling face, Doroka said that she wanted to be with Adonis. Seeing Doroka's behavior, Adonis smiled. Residents of the Rhedia Empire could be seen filling the streets of the capital and the square in front of the palace. It turned out that the residents of the Rhedia Empire would carry out the coronation ceremony of their new emperor. Before starting, the presenter explained Emperor Gao's services, starting from the super-industrial revolution and the military troops that could eradicate witches. The people of Rhedia would remember Emperor Gao's services, but now the Rhedia Empire would have a new ruler. The new ruler of the Rhedia Empire was Empress Andromeda or Lady Dorothea. By singing a song, Lady Dorothea began to hypnotize the people of Rhedia with the magic spell she possessed. This made Lady Dorothea even more loved by her people. Elsewhere, several people were seen watching the Empress's coronation on television broadcasts. However, there was someone who knew the fact that Lady Dorothea was a witch. She would rule the humans. She had wiped out her own kind with the power of science. Then she made herself Empress and ruled the world. At the same time, in the southern hemisphere, Shirusagi saw Lady Dorothea singing to the point that blood came out of his nose. It turned out he was on a mission to capture Adonis. Because Adonis had destroyed his last landing, Shirusagi had difficulty finding Adonis' whereabouts. Therefore, he had to search for it slowly. On the other side, Adonis and Doroka were seen riding together. Adonis said that Doroka could not get in his way if she still wanted to come with him. Knowing that Doroka's love spell could make men melt, Adonis asked her why Doroka didn't use her magic when first met him. Adonis was sure Mrs. Ophelia must have told Doroka to bring him back even if she had to use the love spell. Doroka answered that she didn't want to use her magic because it was the first time she had met Adonis. Therefore, Doroka decided not to do it. It turned out that Doroka's thinking was the same as Adonis, because at that time her thoughts were confused. After that, they arrived at an uninhabited city called Sandland. To make sure the city was safe, Adonis would go around and see the situation. Seeing the bag under Doroka, Adonis then asked what was in the bag. It turned out that the bag and the items in it were gifts from Punch. These items ranged from food, bandages, blankets, and various drinks. Doroka showed Adonis some good stuff. It turned out the item was a snowman tent. Punch once said that the tent was too small for a young man and girl who wanted to camp in the wild. However, when Doroka tried it, the tent felt wide and warm. Seeing the condition of the city of Adonis, he was surprised why this place was uninhabited because there were no traces of a fight at all. Not long after that, they arrived at the police station, which was the largest building in the city. Adonis would check it because maybe he could get information. He told Doroka to be careful when walking because this place was very abandoned. Hearing this, Doroka agreed with Adonis' words. But suddenly a bat flew past Adonis and Doroka. Doroka was shocked and fell into the rotten floor. This of course made Doroka feel guilty. Adonis was annoyed and would leave Doroka if she was too noisy. However, when they went up to the second floor, something surprising happened again. A man greeted Doroka. Doroka shouted. It turned out the man was just a hologram. Doroka thought that the hologram in front of her was a ghost. Because Doroka didn't understand what a hologram was, Adonis then explained that holograms were just three-dimensional images, even though she already knew that the person in front of her was a hologram. Doroka still apologized to him. Not long after that, they both arrived at the prison. Adonis said that he and Doroka had a bad impression of being in a place like this, but a moment later Adonis heard a human voice at the end of the hall. It turned out that there was a prisoner who was singing while playing the guitar. Beside him, it also looked like someone was lying down. Seeing this, Doroka tried to greet him. However, because he was busy playing the guitar, the man ignored Doroka's words. Doroka shouted at the man. Seeing the stranger in front of him, of course the man was surprised because there should be no one in this city. Doroka felt reluctant to answer that she was just a traveler. The man asked why the two of them had come to this place. Hearing this made Adonis ask why he was the only one living in this place. After seeing the situation in that place, Adonis then decided to leave because there was no point in staying there. Besides, it was an unpleasant place for Adonis. Hearing this made the man reveal the fact that everyone had left the city. The reason was because of the super-industrial revolution. Even though they had succeeded in exterminating the witches, they still lived in poverty. Naturally, they couldn't afford it and chose to leave Sandland City. The man also felt that in this era, everyone was just copying what people had done before. No new innovations were created. After hearing this, Adonis asked where the nearest big city was. The man answered that the city of Mamuda was about 70 km east of the city of Sandland. Knowing this, Adonis invited Doroka to leave immediately. Before leaving the man, Doroka apologized for disturbing him from singing. While outside, Doroka then asked why Adonis didn't free the man. Hearing this, Adonis rejected him because he was not related to him. However, Doroka still insisted on giving the man the food Punch had given him. Feeling that Doroka did not understand the situation, Adonis told her that the cell in the prison was not locked at all. What the couple needed was not food but undisturbed peace. It turned out that the person lying next to the man was his wife, who had become a skeleton. It was known that the woman's name was Sasha. Sasha had been accused of being a witch and imprisoned. With tears in his eyes, the man said that Sasha could calm down because the people who imprisoned her had left. From now on, this man would continue to accompany her. He also really regretted that he couldn't protect her at that time. After learning the truth from the man, Adonis and Doroka left for Mamuda. In a short time, they arrived at Mamuda. After entering the gate, Doroka asked whether Adonis would eradicate the inhabitants of this land. Hearing Adonis confirm this, Doroka said with an annoyed face that Adonis would not survive. Therefore, she invited Adonis to play, where the loser must obey the orders of the winner. Of course, Adonis refused. Not long after, they were shocked by the ravaged state of the city. Adonis felt annoyed because wherever he went, everything was destroyed. But not long after that, they saw a woman lying on the road. Seeing a woman who was not wearing clothes, Doroka rushed her. Adonis warned Doroka not to let her guard down. After giving the woman her cloak, Doroka asked if she was okay. It was known that the woman was running from something, but Adonis realized that the woman was not human. She was a robot who was looking for someone to satisfy her lust. The robot suddenly jumped and was about to pounce on Doroka. Luckily, Adonis quickly shot the robot. It was known that the robot doll was called Mard. Not long after that, they heard the same voice as the robot in front of them. Adonis went to check it out. He asked Daroka to stay where she was. Hearing that Daroka asked to come along, Adonis felt annoyed because Daroka had been doing whatever she wanted all along. If she didn't follow his orders, Adonis would leave Daroka. Adonis said that if there was something, Daroka was asked to scream. Daroka, who was alone, was startled by a sound from a distance. It turned out that the sound came from a pile of robot dolls. Feeling scared, Daroka went into the building and followed Adonis. Daroka reasoned that she had no intention of making Adonis angry, especially since she had promised Punch not to let him get into danger. Daroka was seen ridiculously disguised as a statue. If Adonis found her, she thought that Adonis would willingly take her with him. Daroka believed that Adonis was not a rude person. However, when she remembered that Adonis almost wiped her out, Daroka started to feel sad. Suddenly, Adonis approached her with a fierce and sadistic face. Seeing Daroka's behavior, Adonis with an annoyed face and that she might think what he said was a joke. Daroka was scared and she immediately knelt to apologize to Adonis. Daroka reasoned that they were safer together than apart. After all, the one who brought the supplies was her, so it would be easier if Daroka came with Adonis. Hearing this, Adonis confirmed Daroka's reasons as long as Daroka should never get in his way. Hearing Adonis answer, Daroka was happy. Not long after that, they smelled a foul smell from inside the room. The smell came from the corpse of a man who was surrounded by the Mards. They were on top of him. Adonis didn't think that this type of Mard existed. Adonis was surprised when he found out that Mard was made by Redia Empire. One of the Mards shed tears and said that she couldn't take it anymore. Seeing this, Adonis realized that they had self-awareness. She also asked why humans created them because they did not want a life like this. Adonis understood and shot all the Mards who were there. Before dying, they thanked Adonis. Elsewhere, 2 Suzerain country intelligence officers were seen looking at the guards from the Redia Empire. They planned to break in. They started killing the guards who were on guard. Seeing the other guards arriving made them feel happy. Not long after that, they succeeded in eradicating all the guards there. Back at Mamuda, Adonis was seen telling Daroka that Mrs. Ophelia once said that science would strip humanity of its identity. In a world that could create all kinds of imaginations, they might have made dolls like that. Adonis then found handcuffs from Redia prison. It turned out that Mamuda had sold its female residents to the Redia Empire to buy dolls to satisfy their lust. It was also known that Mamuda perished because its women had disappeared, which meant that new life could not be born. Meanwhile, the men of the country had fallen prey to pleasures that were destroying them. Adonis was sure that this country was not the only one that would be destroyed in this world. The super-industrial revolution disgusted Adonis. After that, the 2 of them were seen carrying an object like a speaker and taking it to the Mard pile that was there. Daroka asked Adonis what he would do with the speaker. Hearing Adonis' explanation made Daroka even more confused. It turned out that Adonis would free the Mards with this tool. Adonis cast written summoning magic. But before that, he asked Daroka to hold the speaker. After that, Adonis cast terminating wave magic. This magic succeeded in freeing the Mards. Daroka said that she was grateful to be with Adonis. From a distance, 2 intel from the Suzerain could be seen watching them. They had learned that Adonis was the apprentice of the witch Klo, who had attacked the Redia Empire for revenge. Their goal in capturing Adonis was to make him Suzerain's power. After that, they set off to carry out their plan. However, from a distance, they were being watched by Shirusagi. In the end, they fought each other. On the other side, Daroka was seen making graves for the Mards and praying for them. Daroka apologized because it was all she could do. Adonis said that it was useless for Daroka to do that. If she wanted to help the Mards, Daroka only needed to do one thing, which was to make humans feel their own hatred. But Daroka didn't agree with that. It turned out that Daroka had also made a tomb for the Lunamilia witches. Knowing this, Adonis said that Daroka could stay in this place, but Daroka refused. Adonis said that the witches in Lunamilia had all died because of his actions, but this actually made Daroka want to go with him. After hearing Adonis' words, Daroka returned to show the doll she had made. Daroka had no intention of blaming Adonis. She also didn't want to fight anymore because previously the witches also intended to use him to get weapons to fight humans. They had also taken Adonis to the moon just to resurrect Klo. The plan also included betrayal. It seemed they had made up. With a red face, Adonis agreed to what she said. But Adonis wanted Daroka to throw away the doll. Daroka refused because the doll was her proud work. Besides, the doll was very similar to Adonis. Not long after that, Shirusagi came and asked them to stop making out. Adonis was surprised because he already knew that Shirusagi was an enemy. Adonis thought that he had been tracked. After that, Shirusagi destroyed Adonis' vehicle. Shirusagi had succeeded in rooting out intel from Suzerain. Shirusagi introduced himself and told him his purpose. Hearing this, Adonis looked happy because there was someone from the Redia Empire he could eliminate. It turned out that the teleportation coordinates that Adonis had forced to change had previously been stored on the Intelligence Bureau's server. This made Adonis's whereabouts not so difficult to find. Charmy felt that Adonis had underestimated the Intelligence Bureau. She then asked Shirasagi to immediately finish them off. Adonis didn't expect that they would be able to find him so quickly. Adonis asked whether the two people in Shirasagi's hands were his subordinates. However, Shirasagi denied this because he didn't know who they were. According to Shirasagi, it wasn't just him who was targeting Adonis. Because they had disturbed his hunting, Shirasagi eradicated them. Seeing Shirasagi's behavior of sticking their faces together made Doroka annoyed and asked him to stop. But suddenly, Shirasagi came over to Doroka. Luckily, Adonis was quick to help her. But when Adonis was about to use his magic, Shirasagi punched him until he flew away. Even though he was hit by Adonis' attack, he still managed to take out his gun and shoot Shirasagi. Unexpectedly, Shirasagi easily avoided the shot. Seeing this, Adonis felt that his enemy was a cyborg. Adonis then cast magic, which made the bullet grow bigger. But again, Shirasagi was able to avoid it. Seeing Adonis press mix, Doroka cast the love spell to stop Shirasagi. Feeling that Shirasagi had been influenced by the love spell, Adonis asked Doroka to dig up information starting from Shirasagi's abilities and his troops, as well as digging into the Redia Empire's surveillance system. However, Doroka's love spell didn't work on Shirasagi. Adonis and Doroka were shocked. Shirasagi then said that Doroka's abilities were very similar to the Empress's. Seeing Shirasagi was still able to move, Adonis questioned him. Doroka was surprised because Mandragora's love spell didn't work at all. Seeing the heart symbol on Shirasagi's body made Adonis assume that another witch was controlling him. After that, Shirasagi released the hummingbird technique. A large number of robotic hands could be seen coming out of Shirasagi's back. Feeling that Doroka would only be a nuisance, Adonis asked her to stay away. Because the love spell didn't work, Doroka didn't need to help him. However, his words just made him remember when Klo was humiliated by Emperor Goth. At that time, Klo, who couldn't use magic, turned into an ordinary woman. Adonis assumed that Doroka had also experienced a similar incident. But Doroka still hadn't given up. Even though she couldn't use her magic, and she didn't know whether revenge was good or bad, she decided to accompany Adonis until the end and would not let him die. It amazed Adonis. Therefore, he gave Doroka a sword. Not only that, Adonis also covered his hands and upper body with iron. Adonis asked Doroka to use the sword. The sword Adonis gave was called the Silver Rapier. He had coated the sword with butterfly coil magic, which was even capable of cutting steel. Because Doroka couldn't use a sword, Adonis gave her a scroll containing the basic techniques for using a sword. However, the scroll actually made Doroka dizzy. Seeing the behavior of the two of them, Shirasagi was annoyed because he thought that Adonis and Doroka were making out. He then attacked them with his robotic arms. Adonis could be seen destroying the robot's hands with his punch. Doroka was able to slash the hand with her sword. Knowing that the robot's hand was very fragile, Adonis thought that he could handle it. But he was worried about Doroka because her stamina was slowly running out. Doroka started to get attacked because she was tired. Shirasagi's hands began to surround Doroka. Luckily, Adonis was quick to help her. Adonis felt that the problem was that there were so many robot hands. However, Shirasagi denied this. Because his attack power would be increased, Shirasagi began to lift his attack limits. This made the robot's hands faster. Then Adonis cast Great Trace Magic. This magic was able to withstand Shirasagi's many attacks. After that, Adonis made the magic cover himself and Doroka until it formed a fairly large ball. The ball would hit Shirasagi at very high speed. Seeing the dangerous attack, Charmy asked Shirasagi to dodge. But Shirasagi had other thoughts. He intended to withstand Adonis' attack with his cyborg strength. With maximum strength, Shirasagi managed to stop the attack. But unexpectedly, Adonis suddenly came out and prepared to punch Shirasagi. But Adonis' efforts were in vain because Shirasagi swiftly took out his robotic hand. Even though his plan failed, Adonis still had a backup plan. Doroka suddenly jumped up and prepared to attack Shirasagi. Doroka was very hypocritical. Instead, she abandoned her intention of attacking Shirasagi's vital organs and instead attacked his legs. This of course made Shirasagi feel happy. Seeing Doroka in danger, Adonis immediately ran to save her. But a moment later, Shirasagi punched Doroka and Adonis. The attack made Doroka vomit blood. Shirasagi said that their way of fighting was too naive. But even so, their cooperation was very compact. But suddenly, Adonis, who had not yet fallen, managed to restrain Shirasagi with his magic. He would even wind him up until he died. Shirasagi, who had not given up, managed to direct his robot hand, which made Adonis feel difficult. If Adonis stopped writing, then his magic would disappear. With an annoyed face, Adonis shouted for Shirosagi to let him go. Shirosagi, who was having difficulty, asked Adonis to do the same. Doroka, who was still able to survive, said that she would protect Adonis. She couldn't hesitate at a time like this. Adonis, who saw Shirosagi move his hand, made him panic and asked Doroka to be careful. But Adonis' warning was too late. Shirosagi took Doroka away. Seeing this, Adonis said that Doroka was always troublesome. Adonis, who was trying to escape, couldn't do anything. Robotic hands started to arrive. Shirosagi had also managed to escape Adonis' magic. Seeing Shirosagi order his tool to pluck Doroka's eyes made Adonis panic. Then Doroka's words were shown to Adonis. She said thank you. With tears in her eyes, Doroka remembered her time with Adonis. Doroka said that she wanted to see more sights with Adonis. Shirosagi would take Doroka's eyes because he had said that her gaze would be her last gaze. Doroka looked at Adonis with a sad face. She tried to say something to him. Seeing Doroka in pain made Adonis remember the tragic memories of Klo being wiped out by human troops. Shirosagi knew that Adonis was experiencing deja vu hearing Doroka groan in pain. Seeing Shirosagi's face made Adonis even angrier. But it was too late because the robot hand had already taken Doroka's eyes. Adonis immediately approached Doroka. He was shocked by her condition. Adonis panicked because the bleeding in Doroka's eyes wouldn't stop. But even so, Doroka still calmed Adonis and said that her injury wasn't much. Shirosagi was seen showing Doroka's eyes. Adonis was furious. With sharp gaze, Adonis asked Shirosagi to return Doroka's eyes and heal her. However, Shirosagi was not afraid and instead played with Doroka's eyes. After destroying Doroka's eyes, Shirosagi again challenged Adonis to a fight. Seeing this, Adonis immediately attacked Shirosagi and their fight began. Adonis was seen preparing to perform written summoning magic, but Shirosagi quickly attacked him. This made Adonis' quill come loose. Even so, Adonis was still able to block Shirosagi's kick and threw him against the wall. After that, Adonis immediately took his quill and went to Doroka's side. Shirosagi, who was still able to survive, attacked Adonis again with his robotic arms. Thanks to reversing magic, Adonis managed to return Shirosagi's attack. However, Shirosagi survived with the help of one robotic arm. After that, Adonis and Doroka were seen hiding from Shirosagi. Adonis planned to stop Doroka's bleeding by using Shirosagi's robotic hand. Adonis asked Doroka to hold on because the pain she experienced was only short. Even though Doroka didn't know what Adonis would do, she trusted him. By attaching the flames that came out of the robot's hands, Adonis finally succeeded in stopping Doroka's bleeding. Doroka thanked Adonis. With a smiling face, she said that she wanted to live in the same city and go to school in the same place and live a normal life with Adonis. Doroka wanted to live a peaceful life like that. Seeing Doroka stop talking, Adonis panicked. Luckily, Doroka was still alive, and she only fainted. After hearing Doroka's words about the school, Adonis remembered his memories with Klo. With an annoyed face, Adonis felt that he had failed to protect a woman. A moment later, Adonis again summoned the statue he used during the attack on the capital. The statue was seen attacking Shirosagi, but again he managed to avoid it. Adonis then said that Shirosagi should call his empress to come because he would make her feel the same way as Doroka. Hearing this, Shirosagi was annoyed and the fight between the two of them continued. Adonis' statue was destroyed after being hit by Shirosagi's attack. On the other hand, Shirosagi was seen stepping on his robotic arms and about to attack Adonis, who was on top of the building. Adonis returned to using his iron armor and countered the attack. However, Adonis' fist was easily stopped by Shirosagi. Adonis tried to use written summoning magic, but unfortunately, Shirosagi quickly blew Adonis away. Shirosagi already knew the weakness of Adonis' magic. The magic had a delay between casting and activating. Shirosagi also said that Adonis' magic was just an imitation. Shirosagi could be seen collecting his robot hands and forming a giant robot hand. On the other hand, Doroka began to wake up. She then looked for Adonis' whereabouts. Shirosagi had succeeded in defeating Adonis. Hearing that voice, Doroka knew that the person in front of her was Shirosagi. In a weak voice, Adonis then asked Doroka to leave immediately. Shirosagi then threw Adonis into the rubble. This made Adonis even more in pain because the iron rod was stuck in his shoulder. Then Shirosagi attacked Adonis with his robotic arms. It didn't stop there. Shirosagi also lifted Doroka while hitting her. Shirosagi was annoyed because Doroka had the same voice as the Empress. He would also end Doroka's fate because in this world there was no need for two witches who were alike. Shirosagi said that Adonis' death was a predestined harmony. On all fours, Doroka stopped Shirosagi and asked him not to attack Adonis. Doroka knew what Adonis had done because Doroka had seen for herself many people running and the capital being completely destroyed. But in reality, all this happened because humans had hunted witches. Doroka, who wanted to end the war, believed that revenge was not an option. But now she didn't know whether to forgive humans or not because she had been oppressed like this. Doroka couldn't find any other solution other than revenge. Because Shirosagi heard those words, he was pissed and stepped on Doroka's stomach. He didn't care about that. Shirosagi only wanted Adonis' head. However, Doroka insisted that Shirosagi stop his plans. In a critical condition, Adonis asked Doroka to use the love spell on him. As long as he could move his body, Adonis was willing to become Doroka's doll. Doroka was hesitant at first, but Adonis insisted, because if not, they would both die. Hearing this, Shirosagi got annoyed and kicked Doroka. He also said that all this was fate and didn't fight it. Because there was no other choice, Doroka agreed to use the love spell on Adonis. Adonis shouted an apology to Klo. This magic made Adonis stronger. He even managed to punch Shirosagi. The scene then moves to the past when Doroka's magic was insulted by her friends because her magic was indecent and seemed vulgar. They even said that Doroka's magic was very disgusting. Because of this magic, Doroka was shunned by her friends. Even so, Doroka could only smile while apologizing. Even Mrs. Ophelia considered Doroka's magic impure and despicable. With cruelty, Mrs. Ophelia said that Doroka was a disgrace to the witches. After that, Adonis understood why Doroka maintained her chastity to the point of risking her life. He also thought that Doroka was thinking too hard about everything. While giving her the clothes, Adonis asked Doroka to manipulate him. Adonis confidently said that he would not fall in love with Doroka. Doroka used the love spell to make Adonis become a knight. This magic was able to make Adonis no longer bound by gravity. No one would be able to stop him. All of his wounds would also heal. Even all of Adonis' bones would not be broken. Adonis also got unlimited magic. Seeing this, Shirosagi just found out that love spell had that kind of power. With full confidence, Doroka said that Adonis would not lose to anyone. Feeling threatened, Shirosagi kept his distance. But a moment later, Adonis attacked Shirosagi with his quill. The attack left Shirosagi injured. Adonis said that Doroka's will was in order. Even Adonis considered Doroka his princess. After being cut by the quill, Shirosagi panicked and tried to get away. But Adonis won't let him go. He then chased Shirosagi by jumping over his robotic arms. Shirosagi felt that Doroka's orders made Adonis' magic power increase. After throwing him away, Adonis approached Shirosagi again and grabbed his hand until it was cut off. He said that this hand had injured the princess. After throwing him to the ground, Adonis grabbed Shirosagi's leg again and said that his leg had stained the princess. He then threw Shirosagi, severing his leg. After losing one arm and a leg, Shirosagi looked helpless. After that, Adonis took out written summoning magic and said that he would make Shirosagi shatter into pieces. Adonis cast large-scale magic. The magic created a circle in the sky and made the surrounding area snowfall. It was known that this magic was the magic that Klo used to stop a drought that lasted for 100 years. Adonis once promised Klo that this magic would only be used when protecting someone. Seeing a huge magic circle in the sky made Shirosagi panic. He then attacked Adonis while begging him for forgiveness. Shirosagi's attack didn't work because the robot's hands turned into ice in an instant. Shirosagi asked Doroka to order Adonis to stop because he could die with him. Moreover, humans couldn't withstand magic like this. Doroka confidently said that Adonis would not freeze because his body could be covered in a burning fire. Shirosagi, who saw this, felt annoyed and tried to attack Adonis. However, his efforts were in vain because his body suddenly froze when he tried to approach Adonis. Because the magic formula was complete, Adonis launched his final magic. Absolute Zero magic was capable of creating outstanding and damaging storms. Charmy, who saw the incident from the drone, asked Shirosagi to immediately run away. But it was too late because Shirosagi was frozen. Charmy's drone was destroyed because it couldn't withstand the storm. Adonis then performed Absolute Zero magic, which made the entire city freeze. Not only that, even the people in the wasteland who were far from where Adonis was fighting started to feel cold. Seeing a storm from a distance, Punch then asked the others to find shelter. Not long after that, a blizzard came crashing down on the wasteland. At the Intelligence Bureau, they were panicking because they had lost the visual image of the battle scene. Plus, communication with Shirosagi had been lost. They also detected extremely widespread magic phenomena as well as temperature dropped in the battle coordinates. They also didn't know whether Shirosagi was still alive or not. After changing to a satellite channel, Charmy was surprised to see swirling clouds at the battle coordinates. Bose, who was there, said no wonder that the Intelligence Bureau couldn't deal with them. In the wasteland, Punch the others looked fine. Punch hoped that Adonis and Doroka were still alive. At the scene of the battle, Klo appeared and hugged Adonis. After that, she disappeared. Adonis, who woke up, said that he once promised Chloe that this magic would only be used when protecting someone. Doroka felt warm because Adonis had previously given his armor to her. Feeling worried about Adonis' condition, Doroka then released her love spell. Luckily, Adonis was still alive, which made Doroka happy, but it turned out Shirasagi was still alive. Even though he was dying, he thought that Adonis and Doroka were very similar to the Empress and the young man. The young man in question was the red-haired man from before. Shirasagi advised that if they met the Empress, please tell her that even though he failed to get the reincarnation, he had tried his best. A moment later, Shirasagi was seen disappearing into nothing. Adonis, who woke up, said that he would heal her eyes. In the imperial capital, Lady Dorothea was seen jogging and made the people who saw her feel excited. Lady Dorothea appeared to be greeting a small child and was friendly to everyone. She was even covered by television channels which broadcast it live. After that, her aide was seen asking her to bring a group of bodyguards while jogging in the morning. However, Lady Dorothea confidently answered that if she was loved by everyone, no harm would come to her. After that, Lady Dorothea was seen waiting for answers from other countries. It turned out that Lady Dorothea asked the leaders of other countries to comply with her wishes. If not, there would be war. The countries in question were Mika Military Industrial Country, Suzhou Country, Medical Country, and Orion Sonora Country. On the other hand, Adonis was seen covering Doroka, who was cold. With a gloomy face, Doroka said that she had used the love spell on Adonis, who was known to value Chloe more than anyone else. Hearing this, Adonis said that it was not important because he had asked Doroka to do it. After all, Shirasagi was very strong. Even though he didn't want to admit it, Adonis couldn't beat him using normal methods. This was also his fault for not realizing the greatness of their fighting power. Adonis then asked Doroka to lift her bangs. Adonis had calculated Doroka's apologies all this time. Adonis said that he was starting to understand Doroka a little, who had a reckless and timid nature. It was very troublesome in nature. Even so, Doroka was quite a serious person, and her gentleness was also sincere. Hearing this made Doroka remember Chloe's face. Adonis also took back his words that Doroka was a hypocrite and asked her to share a little of that tenderness with herself. If she didn't respect herself, then her life would be difficult. After that, Adonis was seen tying bandages around Doroka's eyes. With a smiling face, Doroka thought that this felt the same as being hugged by Adonis. Hearing this, Adonis asked Doroka not to forget herself because in his heart there was only Chloe. Also, her love spell didn't work on him at all. Hearing this made Doroka smile. She agreed with Adonis' words. After that, they would rush away. After packing, Adonis had no idea that the tent had a function too. Adonis swiftly helped Doroka, who had slipped. Seeing Adonis holding her hand, of course, Doroka asked that. Because this place was very slippery, Adonis allowed Doroka to hold his hand. After packing up their things, they again held hands and walked together. In the imperial capital, it was seen that Yuki had recovered and would avenge her brother's death. Meanwhile, Doroka said that she had understood that revenge was completely acceptable. This is the end of Hametsu no Oukoku. Thank you so much for staying in this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest contents. See you in the next video.